So guys, today we will be discussing about profiles. Why F5 needs a profile. So first of all, guys, you need to understand the logic when you study any topic, why it is needed. So there must be some cases why it has been introduced. Why the think profile, why the health monitor, right? We talked about health monitor, why it has been introduced. Now the same thing, why profile is been introduced in F5. So guys, when I say F5, you have a client coming to connect to F5 via URL. Let's say my URL is sianets.com. It is hosted on F5. Now we have three servers. Let's say server 1, server 2, server 3. Now guys, first of all, what happens? TCP handshake happens. Another thing, after that, there will be HTTP packet. Or let's say someone wants to connect to FTP via F5. Or let's say someone wants to connect a SMTP server. So how F5 will come to know whether it's a plain TCP traffic, whether it's a HTTP traffic, whether it's an SMTP traffic or SMTP traffic. So how F5 will come to know that what is this traffic? What is this traffic? How F5 will come to know why it is TCP, why it is HTTP, how it is FTP. So there comes your profile. So profile is very configuration, very powerful object. You can say one of the objects like health monitor, which makes F5 intelligent. It is an easy way for F5 to define traffic behavior. If there is an HTTP traffic, guys, it will apply HTTP profile. If it's an FTP traffic, then it will apply FTP profile. So it will determine your traffic behavior. So a profile tells your virtual server that how to process packet. So if virtual server has TCP profile, then it will apply TCP packet. If virtual server has HTTP profile, then HTTP traffic is applied. So simple meaning is profile is one of the object that will tell how to process packet to F5. Once we discuss different types of profile, you will come to know, but there is a logic. So now we will see different meanings of profiles. So let's go one by one. So first we will discuss about profile concept, configuration, and then we will discuss about persistence and SSL also. So all these are covered in your profile section. So see guys, we have a architecture where we have a client coming to internet and he wants to connect to your virtual server. And after that you have different server, let's say red, green, blue, and Windows server. So profile helps or determine how virtual server traffic is processed on F5. By default, F5 is not intelligent. Profile helps you to make intelligent. Profile is one of the object in F5 that controls the behavior. It makes F5 intelligent. So we discussed, right? I will discuss about SSL profile, TCP profile, HTTP profile. You will come to know how F5 controls the traffic. How F5 will detect whether it's an HTTP traffic, TCP traffic. That is where profile comes into picture, guys. Now, this is about the traffic process. So guys, one of the pictorial representation which will show you. So this is F5, this is your web servers, and this is your client. So can you see this? When a traffic is coming, it is checking whether it's in TCP traffic or HTTP traffic. So F5, once you call in profile, it will see inside the packet. Let's say if an HTTP traffic comes in, if you don't have HTTP profile, then F5 cannot look inside the HTTP packet. It does not have a visibility what is coming inside your HTTP. So HTTP packet has a request header and your response header. So F5 will never come to know what is inside it. So a simple, again, a definition is profile helps to F5 to open a packet. It helps F5 to detect what is coming inside your packet. It will scan your packet. So that is where profiles helps you to determine that. Or you can say it will control your traffic. If it's an SSL traffic, then it will encrypt. It will see whether you have a certificate. So don't worry, I will show you everything, but you need to understand why profile is needed. Now, if I discuss, guys, about different profiles, what are their meaning? Let's see. So by default, guys, you have a virtual server, then there is a TCP profile. If you see, there are TCP WAN profile and TCP LAN. If you see, there is client SSL, server SSL. If you see, there is an HTTP profile, cookie persistence profile. Let's say client is coming from internet and hitting your F5. Then you have a switch layer 2. Then you have server 1, server 2, server 3. So what are client and server means? So guys, F5 is acting as a full proxy architecture. We have discussed this. F5 is a full proxy architecture. So there is a separate client side traffic and separate server side. So client side traffic, if I say, that is client to F5. This is client side traffic. And if I say F5 to the server, that is called server side traffic. So if you see, there is TCP WAN and TCP LAN, guys. TCP WAN profile will be applied here when someone is coming from internet. TCP LAN profile is applied here so that it can optimize your traffic and increase your performance. If I say client SSL, means client to F5, I want encrypted traffic. So there can be scenarios, guys, that your client to F5 can be HTTPS, but F5 to the server is plain HTTP. It can be scenario that is only possible when you have a profile. So how F5 will determine, guys, whether I need to encrypt this session or I need to encrypt this session also. That is because of your profile, guys. That is how it determines that you need different profiles. So that is why it helps you to determine that. Very, very important, guys. That is how you will understand the full proxy architecture. It provides you the intelligence to differentiate between client side traffic and server side traffic. If you see HTTP, guys, there is an HTTP profile. Cookie persistence can only work if you have an HTTP profile. So let's say you have a banking customer, or let's say you are accessing flipkart.com. So I want that subsequent connection from same client should go to same server. That is the purpose of persistence. I want that if it comes today and after some time it comes again, I don't want this connection to be break. So we'll discuss about persistence and I will show you where subsequent connections to the client is going to the same server. It is not going to red, green or blue. Now guys, let's discuss about types of profile so that you understand more into that. First of the profile I called as service profile, that is layer 7 profile. HTTP and TCP are your service profile. How F5 will differentiate whether client who is connecting to sianets.com, whether it's a layer 4 traffic or layer 7 traffic, that is determined by your profile. So layer 7 profile example is HTTP and FTP. Now, persistence profile. This is one of the client oriented profile. So we have cookie persistence, source persistence, and we have two or more types also. But these are the more commonly used persistence profile. Now, protocol profile. TCP UDP. How F5 will see whether client who is coming, whether it's a TCP traffic or UDP traffic. That is determined by your protocol profile. So I hope now you are getting it. Differentiate. There are different types of profile categorized into service profile, persistence profile, protocol profile. Now here comes your SSL profile. So client SSL means I want client to F5 encrypted. Server SSL means I want F5 to the server encrypted. So that is a part of your SSL profile. Now, another profile is your authentication profile. So I want that sometime maybe customer requirement is I want F5 to authenticate my client prior to load balancing. I want F5 to act as my LDAP server, radius server. I want who wants to connect to sianets.com. Then they will get first authentication page. So F5 will forward traffic to your radius server and it will check the credential. Then only it will forward the traffic to server 1, server 2, or server 3. Prior to load balancing, I want to authenticate your users. So you can have connectivity with your LDAP or radius. First client traffic comes in, it will forward to your radius server or LDAP server. Once radius server confirms that this is authenticated, then F5 will forward the load balancing. Either it can forward to server 1, server 2, or server 3. So that comes under your authentication profile. Now, guys, this is related to authentication protocol. So these are the types of profiles which are coming into picture. There is another stream profile. So this is very less used, but it comes into picture when you need to change your content of a server. So let's say server is responding with it to F5. Now client wants that if some server is sending with it to the client, it should look like Shashi. Some change of content before it reaches your client. So that is an example of stream profile that comes under your I rules, guys. When we will discuss about I rules, that then I will tell you. Now, just a small example of every profile, then we will discuss in detail. First is persistence profile. So persistence generally means that your client request, if can you see there are two types of connection, one is green, one is purple. So can you see this repeated client request coming from same client is always going to your green server. First request, second request, third request. So persistence refers to directing a client request to the same backend server. So here is the catch, same backend server during a session. So persistence refers that I want to direct my all my same client request, subsequent request of the client to the same server, whole duration of a session until session is made and closed. I want to make sure that it goes to same server during duration of your session. Or you can say until your task or transaction is completed. Let's say guys, you're doing bank transaction, right? I don't want that first when you log in it goes to this server, then it goes to this server, and that your transaction will denied. I want that when I am doing a transaction or when I complete a task or transaction, until that it goes to your same server. Let's say I log in using username and password. I want to add something in cart. When you add some mobile or laptop into flipkart.com, then you make a payment. So until this all transaction is completed, I want all my this request from same client goes to same server. So that is helpful. So persistence helps your making your HTTP connection stateful. So guys, in IT there are two terms, stateless and stateful. So stateful means it will keep a track of your previous transaction that previous user connected to with server. Then F5 has a record of that. So F5 will make a table and it will track. If it's an existing user, then it will go to the same server. So here is the catch, duration of until your duration is completed or your session is closed. So that is an example of persistence that I want during my duration or until a task is completed. I want my all request from same client should go to the same server. So we will discuss in detail and I will do the lab SSL profile. So can you see this? We have client and we have server. Here it is saying encrypted connection. Here it is saying decrypted traffic. So that is why I am saying that this connection is independent of this connection. That is what is an advantage of your full proxy architecture. This connection can be on HTTPS. This connection can be on HTTP. So what it will have, your client will connect to HTTPS sianets.com. After that, F5 will decrypt your traffic and check what is coming inside this packet. Then it will send your decrypted packet to server. So here it will send your plain HTTP. Here it will be your encrypted. That is the meaning of your SSL profile, guys. Here the concept comes of your certificate and key, guys. We need a certificate and key for your domain, which will help you to encrypt a session. How F5 will encrypt this connection? That is via certificate and key. So whenever you buy any domain, guys, you buy a certificate and you will get a key also. You will have public key and private key. So that is the term of your SSL profile. So we will discuss about certificate, SSL handshake and everything. But basic is this one. These are some example. FTP, guys. So FTP works on how many ports, guys? FTP works on which port? So there are two ports in FTP, 20 and 21. So one is your control connection and one is your data transfer connection. So how F5 will come to know whether I'm getting FTP traffic? So that is via FTP profile. So you will create a virtual server with FTP profile. Until you call a virtual server FTP profile, F5 will never determine. So to determine a traffic or a protocol, F5 needs a profile. Now guys, this is very important, profile dependency. Please concentration on this. So we have OSI layer here, physical data link network transport. And then there is a session presentation and application layer. So when I am creating a virtual server, in that guys, you can either create a TCP virtual server or you can either create a UDP virtual server. Same virtual server cannot have these two profiles together. So either you can have TCP profile bind to a virtual server or UDP. So let's say a DNS traffic. Now I have F5 wants to process DNS traffic. DNS works on TCP plus UDP. So in this case, guys, I will create 153 UDP virtual server and one TCP virtual server on port 53. You cannot call two profiles together. So that is what it is saying on profile dependency. So I will show you guys how. Let me just open my F5 and I will quickly show you. I will go into F5. So your profiles are always called on your virtual server. There is no concept of pool member here. So I will show you through lab how we call the profile. So you need to go to local traffic. Your all profiles comes here. Service profile, content profile, persistence profile, protocol profile, SSL. So you can check all your profile. These are your default profiles. So here it is. You need to go to local traffic and profile section. And when you create a profile, you need to bind to your virtual server. So let me open one of the virtual server. So here we bind different profile. Can you see TCP profile, client TCP, server TCP, HTTP, FTP, SSL, LDAP, SMTP. So all your profiles are called on your virtual server. So now if I create any new virtual server, let me go to virtual server and create. In this, I will just say TCP DNS. Now, if I select here 53, so can you see this? Right now, protocol is TCP. So you cannot call TCP and UDP together. Either you can create TCP virtual server or UDP. If I create UDP, then it will create one UDP virtual server. I cannot call TCP. There is no option to call TCP. So that is what is saying. I cannot use two layer for profile together. It cannot be clubbed. Either you need to, if you want both the traffic to be processed on your virtual server, so you will create one TCP virtual server and one UDP virtual server. I create one, let's say 192.168.1.40. So I'm just calling UDP and just finish. In this, I cannot call TCP. I have to create one more DNS TCP virtual server. That is an example of your TCP virtual server versus UDP virtual server. Now, I will create one TCP. Here I will select same IP. You can have same IP with multiple ports, virtual server. I will select 53. Here I will select UDP. UDP I've already done. I will select TCP. Can you see now it is giving me TCP option. So I will just finish. So I have created two virtual server, one with TCP profile, one with UDP. IP is same and port is same. So you can create like this. One will handle your TCP traffic of DNS, one will handle your UDP traffic of DNS. And how it is differentiated? It is differentiated based on your profile. So that is why profile makes F5 intelligent. It makes a difference whether it's a TCP profile or UDP. If you don't have profile, then it will not determine. So that is why that picture representation I was showing, I will just show you again. You cannot combine two profiles together at same OSI layer. Let's say there is an HTTP profile and FTP. So either you can have HTTP virtual server or FTP virtual server. You cannot use these two profile in same virtual server. One virtual server cannot have this profile. Either one virtual server will have HTTP and one virtual server will have FTP. So you can think in terms of OSI model. But guys, here is a catch. There are some profile like cookie that is dependent on your base profile. So cookie persistence, if I try to call in virtual server, if I don't have HTTP profile in that, then it will not work. Some profiles are dependent on your base profile. Some can't be combined, that is one, and some dependent. So can you see blue and red? This cannot be clubbed together, but some can be. So can I create one question, guys? Can I create HTTP virtual server without TCP? Anyone? Can I create a virtual server with only HTTP profile without TCP in this? Think in terms of OSI layer, how the packet flow. I have a virtual server with HTTP profile, but I don't have TCP profile. Will it work, guys? Anyone? First traffic comes on TCP layer. Handshake will be done. After that, only HTTP get packet will happen. So can it be happen? No, guys. You have TCP profile, then only you can have HTTP. So that is what it is saying. Now I will show you FTP and HTTP. I cannot club it. If I go into F5 again, I will go to virtual server. I will go here, FTP VS. I've already created one VS. Now, if I just notice, right now there is an option of HTTP profile and FTP profile. But guys, what I will do now, I will just select here FTP. Please notice the difference. HTTP profile now I cannot call. It's grayed out. It's not giving me option. Can you see this? This FTP profile can only process your FTP traffic. It cannot process your HTTP traffic. It is grayed out. It's not letting me do anything. Now, if I select HTTP, it's not giving me an option. And in this case, guys, I will give port 21, my virtual server, let's say anything, and then I create it. So that is what is the meaning of this profile dependency, guys. Now, guys, another important, very, very important interview question. Very, very important. What is default profile? What is custom profile? So we have checked, guys, default monitors versus custom monitor. Very important, guys. This is a live production scenario which I am discussing, guys. Never change your default profile. Your default profile should never be modified, and it cannot be deleted, guys. Let me give you an example. Let's say I have 10 virtual server. I have 10 URLs which needs to be published in F5, VS1, VS2, VS3, and VS4. Let's say I've taken 4. Let's say virtual server 1 had TCP profile. Virtual server 2 has also TCP. TCP, default profile I'm talking about. Now, guys, someone comes to me and wants to change some TCP profile. Let's say they want to change idle timeout of TCP profile. Let's say someone wants to change keep alive timeout. So, guys, if I change in this base TCP profile, will it change in this also and this also and this also? Let's say only one URL I want to increase idle timeout. I want to increase idle timeout for one application. Why one application has idle timeout 5 minutes by default. I want to change to 10 minutes. But this application I don't want to change. This application I don't want to change. And this application I don't want to change. So in this case, guys, you tell me whether if I change default TCP profile, will this setting get changed here and here also? Yes, guys. So that is why if you want to modify any parameter of default profile, you should create custom profile and then you need to change that parameter. So let me give you an example from the lab so that you can understand more. This is very important, guys. You need to understand what is default profile, what is custom. So when I go to F5 by default, when you configure F5 from scratch and go to profile, by default, there is different default profile. Let's say TCP, I will open TCP. Can you see we have TCP default profile. So in this case, what will happen is, if I open this TCP profile, in TCP profile, can you see this? All are your default settings: idle timeout, keep alive interval, buffer size. Let's say if someone wants to increase, by default timeout is 300 seconds. Let's say one virtual server, one application wants to increase to 600 seconds. So if I change here, guys, if I change here in this TCP profile idle timeout, it will impact all my virtual server where that TCP profile is applied. Can you see by default it's TCP here? This is the TCP profile. Now again, another virtual server is using the same TCP profile. See, but I want only one virtual server to get this TCP profile changed. This default TCP profile is called on my different virtual server. So if I change this default profile, it will impact my other virtual server also. So to resolve this, what I will do, I will create one custom profile and then I will change some parameters. So how you will do? I will create one profile. Here I will select TCP custom. And my parent profile is TCP, guys. Most of the settings, see, whatever settings I need to change, I can change it. But rest settings, it's taking from your parent. So you can say that this is your parent profile and this is your child profile. Now let's say one of my virtual server, one of my URL wants idle timeout to increase to 600 seconds. So what I will do, I will click here, custom, and I will say idle timeout. Here, what I will do, I will change to 600 seconds. Now I will go downwards and finished. So this profile, guys, you can call on your particular virtual server. Now I will go here, my virtual server particular. Let's say this application I want to change idle timeout. So I will go here and I will call here this. So can you see TCP custom C? So this will only impact this virtual server, guys. It will not impact any other virtual server. Can you see this? By other virtual server has default TCP. See, default TCP. So it is not impacting any other virtual server. So that is why if you want to change any settings, so you create your custom profiles. So it will create from your default profile, see, and it will build your child and parent relationship. And this profile you cannot modify. It you can modify, but it is not suggested. Very, very important, guys. No one will tell you this scenario. This is some basic scenarios, guys. I have shown you disadvantage of this. Your customer will shout on you why you have changed my this settings. It's impacting it. I'm having slowness issues. So that is where TCP profile comes into picture. So if you want to apply WAN profile, you can apply. Generally, your WAN profile is applied. If one more thing I need to tell you, when I go to virtual server, can you see this? There are client profile and server profile. What it is saying that my client profile is TCP at server and also I'm using the same. Why there are two profiles here, guys? Anyone? Why there is a protocol profile client and protocol profile server? Anyone? In my virtual server, why there are two types of TCP? One is TCP client and one is TCP server. Why it is so? Because F5 works as a full proxy architecture. So you can define different also. Let's say you're using WAN, SD-WAN or something. You can define TCP WAN optimization. Here you can define TCP LAN optimization. So WAN optimization comes into picture when client connects to virtual server over a WAN link. When you're using WAN link, and generally let's say it's great, generally slower. Maybe WAN link there are multiple connection, but in LAN maybe you want your data to be accepted faster, so you can use this WAN optimization. It will increase your connection. Optimize means it will increase your performance. So you can also see there is a very important thing, help section. You can see different things here. What is client profile? What is server? Here you can see. So client profile means client to F5 connection. Server profiles means F5 to your server connection. So that is the meaning of your profile section. So see, I have a parent profile. I will create one custom and I want to inherit some properties from that. Another child profile can be parent for this profile also. So that is how hierarchy works. So your virtual server can have TCP profile, UDP, or we will talk about performance. When we talk about types of virtual server, there are one performance layer and forwarding virtual server also, where you use this fast L4. It also increase your performance. So how to configure profile, guys? You need to go to local traffic profiles. You will see service profile, persistence profile, protocol profile, SSL profile. And we will come up across this. This we have discussed. You need to give name, parent profile, which property you want. If you have custom, if you check, that will not inherit. Other things are inherit. If you select here this one, then it will only get changed. Other will inherit from your parent profile.